Hey everyone, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast. This show is about helping you grow as a coach by standing on the shoulders of giants. Each show, you get a different mentor in your ear. The early motivations, the successes, the failures, the tools, the tricks, and the insight into where the industry is going. All of it so you can make your own dent in the world. Remember, success leaves clues. Now, without further ado, on to the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Whitwer. Today's podcast is with my good friend, Dave Smith. Dave is a former personal trainer and gym owner who was chosen as Canada's top fitness professional in 2013. He was one of the first fit pros to really make a name for himself as an online coach. He then went on to build two multi-million-dollar online coaching businesses. From all of his experience, Dave has become one of the world's top Facebook marketers, and he now helps other coaches build highly engaged audiences on Facebook, and most of it for free. In this conversation, we talk about how a business major in college becomes Canada's top fitness professional. There's some fun and interesting stories here. We explore his journey through the fitness industry, from training out of his basement to building a gym, hating it and ultimately selling it, to building a seven-figure online training business, to then transitioning into and ultimately selling a seven-figure coach education business. And then finally, we do a deep dive into his current project, helping people get more leads from Facebook. We also dig into some personal stuff like building a business with your significant other and how they make that work. Dave and Lucy have a phenomenal relationship. They work in the business together and they don't want to tear each other's heads off every day. Dave really is the king of Facebook groups and how to use them as a lead generation strategy for your coaching business. So I make sure to pull some nuggets out that you can start using right away. And if you want to get started online, really get your feet wet, Dave provides a super simple, ad-free strategy that you can get started just to get the ball rolling. As always with my conversations with Dave, I have a notepad full of notes. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Dave Smith, welcome to the Coach Catalyst podcast. How are you, brother?
And Trevor, really glad to be here. You and I, we don't chat frequently enough. Whenever we do, good stuff happens though.
I know. I'm excited for our conversation today. And so really this podcast is about kind of getting to pull back the curtains on people's journeys, because many times we see someone, especially in the coaching industry, like where they are now, right? But that's like 10, 15 years in the making. And so we don't get to dig into the past, maybe the successes and failures. And so for you, I kind of want to go back and talk a little bit about a cool award you got really early on as you were voted Canada's best trainer. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, that was back in the day. That was
I know, right?
2013. Yeah. Long story short. So if anyone here, any listeners are from Canada, you'll probably be familiar that we have a body, like a certification body called CanFit Pro.
Okay.
A lot of like a high percentage of personal trainers who are working in Canada go through CanFit. So every year they take nominations for people who are doing cool stuff in the fitness world, and then they go through this process of like whittling them down, and then there's this big conference in Toronto every year that CanFit puts on. I think there's maybe 15,000 trainers and fitness coaches, nutrition coaches who are at this big conference. So it's a big deal. And in 2013, someone nominated me. I went through this whole process and was chosen as one of the three finalists. And so it was pretty cool, actually. I was sitting in this auditorium. There's thousands and thousands of my peers there. And this guy, David Patchell-Evans, who founded Good Life Fitness, chain of fitness gyms, and then also runs CanFit now. He's on stage and they do this little video roll of each of the three finalists. And then David announces the winner, and he called my name. And it was funny because called my name, everyone starts giving applause. And then he called me up on stage, which I never really thought too much about this, like what was going to happen. I just sort of figured they were going to hand me a prize, but they called me up on stage, and he's Patch, he's called. He's someone I really looked up to, just he had so much success and so much impact in the fitness world in Canada. So I go up, shake his hand, and then he basically moves aside from the podium and like gestures for me to take a step behind the podium and give a speech. And honestly, I had like nothing prepared. And so the funny part of all this was the whole event was that year was sponsored by Subway subs. And so the deal was everyone's familiar with Jared, like the former Subway sub guy. So Subway in Canada, this was before the whole Jared scandal, they were going to replicate that with someone in Canada. And this guy who was massively overweight and he wanted to lose all this weight. And they wanted a fitness coach who was going to step in and sort of like be his, guiding force on this journey of losing weight. And so the winner of this award was going to step in and play this role. So I had this memory when Pat stepped out of the way and said, "Hey, give a few words." I just thought about Subway for some reason. And so I took the mic and just said, said something so stupid. I said, "Thanks, Subway. I love your meatball subs." That's what came to mind. And the audience like got a laugh out of it. I don't really remember what I said much after that, but Subway, they came up, they gave me this big check. I forget how much it was, won a bunch of money. And then the last part of the story was they handed me this bag. It was like a cardboard bag. And inside it, I kid you not, there was 1,000 $5 gift cards to Subway. So it's Subway for life.
Do you still have? Do you use them all up, or do you still have some, or do you give them? Do you throw them out into the crowd and shower everyone with Subway?
Yeah, honestly, from that day, like anytime I gave anyone a gift, they were getting Subway gift cards for the next 10 years. Well, actually, just so it's almost 10 years since that happened, and I think I just ran out recently, like maybe 2 years ago. They lasted a long time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, when you won that award, were you training in person? Were you doing it online? Were you doing a combination? What was your kind of role like at that point?
Yeah, good question. It's kind of funny because the title of that award is actually Canada's top fitness professional, and I sort of laugh at it because, like, I'll be honest with you, I don't even do personal training anymore. But back then, when I was a personal trainer, I'd say I was a pretty average personal trainer. Like, I don't have a kinesiology degree, I don't have a science degree. I'm a business guy. Like, I went to business school and just liked fitness, and so on the scale of people who like really know anatomy and know exercise, I'm pretty low on the totem pole. But I think the reason why I got nominated and ended up winning that award was it was purely marketing. Like it really all comes down to business. I owned a gym at that time,
Okay.
but it also really started building my online presence, really started building an online component, like a bolt on to my in person business. I had a bolt on product that I was selling online. And I know that's so common nowadays, but this was I started that back in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So you rewind like
Right.
13, 14, 15 years ago, there weren't a lot of people doing that. So it was pretty novel back then. So yeah, in terms of like why they chose me, I really think it was because of marketing. I was
Right.
making waves online, specifically on Facebook was my platform of choice.
And so, what was your bolt-on product? Was it just online training, or was it like a 12-week, guide or 12-week program?
Yeah, good question. I tried a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff sucked. Honestly, a lot of stuff crashed and burned. My first product was a subscription service, and man, if there are any fitness coaches or nutrition coaches, and you're listening to this, and you're thinking about building this model, please do not do it. It's not a good model. So my original idea was that I was going to film these workouts, and they were just like body weight workouts, me on my yoga mat, and I'd upload them to a membership site. You know where I'm going with this, and people would pay a subscription fee, like Netflix, basically for
Mm-hmm.
equipment-free workouts. Again, I know that's like so not unique today, but back then, like had a little bit of novelty to it. As soon as YouTube started taking off, though, and all this free content was on all over YouTube, my subscription service like absolutely tanked. It died. I think the best I ever had it, I might have had maybe 100 or 200 subscribers at any given time, and it was $20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I made like a very little bit of money from that. But what I really learned from that was I got a ton of feedback. So anytime someone unsubscribed, which was crushing, like I worked so hard to get people to
Right.
subscribe, and when they'd unsubscribe, it would just like crush me. I had this survey and would ask them basically like why they unsubscribed. And one of the regular pieces of feedback that I got was people alluding to the fact that they were doing these workouts at home, but they didn't really like know who else was doing them, or they didn't feel like they lost motivation because they felt like they were still doing it by themselves. And so I started to take note of this and thought, okay, well, how can I bring these people together so they feel like they're not doing it alone? And again, like Trevor, I know this isn't news nowadays, but that was actually the instigation of my first program that was hosted in a Facebook group. Facebook groups, like everyone has a Facebook group today, but back then, so this was probably, I think Facebook group started in 2010, and I was like very early on with the Facebook group. So my first successful product was taking all this knowledge from my unsubscribes and my membership. I built, it was called the 10 and 4 challenge. It was, the goal was to help women lose 10 pounds in 4 weeks through nutrition and exercise. And it was hosted inside a Facebook group. And I really believe I was one of the first fitness coaches to do this. And it was a huge success. Like the stickiness factor of all these people just loving each other. So it was me filled with my first challenge. I think I had about 40 people sign up. And so it was me and these 40 middle aged women. And honestly, I almost felt weird going into the group because they were all having their girl chat. They're talking about menopause. They're doing all these things, and it was so cool because it was hands off for me. Like once that community started to snowball,
Right.
I knew I was onto something, and so then that led to a second challenge, a third challenge, a fourth challenge, and then it led to back end offers to upsell these people into personalized programming. But it really started from realizing that community was huge.
And so how long so then you kind of moved into fully online, right? Like you got rid of the gym and then did that evolve into the complete like into the online only piece?
Yeah, 100%. So I kind of had the typical story of personal trainer, like looking for a way to have a scalable business. And I
Right.
thought, okay, opening a gym, that's going to be my ticket. I built a gym, like physically built the building from scratch.
Okay.
It was a private gym, so you couldn't have a membership. You had to be working with a personal trainer when you're at the gym. So I had all these personal trainers that worked there. And like I hated it. Honestly, I hated running a facility. I hated being a people manager. And so I knew probably this was my career's had a lot of ups and downs. The up was the grand opening. I was so excited to open this gym. And then 6 months later, the down, it just hit me that I'd invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it took about a year, the whole process of building this gym, a year of my life. And I absolutely hated it. It was so much stress. And so I realized 6 months in, this was not my long term goal. And so I fortunately, one of my competitors in the city where my gym was reached out and they said, "Hey, we're looking to expand. We really like what you've done with your gym. Would you be open to selling it?" And like I was inside, I was just ecstatic, thinking, "Yes, to like take this off my hands, please. I want out." And so they made me an offer. We closed that deal. And the issue with that was, okay, great. My gym is gone, made some money off of that, but I had a non compete. I couldn't open up a new gym. I couldn't start an in person business in my city. And so this little, fledgling online business that I had started had to turn into something. Otherwise, I couldn't work in the fitness industry. And so very quickly, all my eggs were in one basket for this online business. And that 10 and 4 challenge that I just told you about, I busted my butt to turn that into something that could pay the mortgage, pay the bills, and become a
Right.
real business. So yeah, that's kind of where it went from like incubation stage to full-fledged business, like a career into like grew into quite a large business thereafter.
Did you at least keep the building and then stay landlord and rent back to them or did you sell it all?
Should have, man. Nah, I sold the whole thing. I was so young. Like back then, I was 29 maybe. And I don't know how old your listeners are, but when you're in your 20s, everything just seems like there's so much opportunity. So I was just like, okay, done with that stage, moving on to the next one, and didn't
Yeah.
have the foresight to do something smart like you just suggested.
Did so when you started the gym, was it more like I want this to be a business and I'm going to bring other coaches in to do the coaching, or you're like, hey, I want a home to do my coaching? Because I think a lot of people listening like that in our industry, that seems to be the pinnacle. Is like I have my own gym, I have my space. That seems to be like where people aspire to, whether or not that's where people should. I think it's a different skill set. It's a certain skill set, and some people find that once they get there, it's like I actually just want to coach people. I don't want to manage other coaches. And I mean, so what was your kind of motivations behind the gym? Was it you personally, or was it to grow like a business piece?
Yeah, good question. And I really want to preface this by saying I don't think that owning a gym is a bad business model. When I say I hated it, you nailed it. Like it was my skill set and just like what I was interested in. It wasn't a good fit for me.
Hmm.
But in terms of like why I went that route, two reasons was number one, previous to that, my personal training business, I had a gym in my basement of my house. And I'm sure some of your listeners have either
Yeah.
been there and done that or are doing that right now. there are some benefits to that, right? Your customers come to you, you got like little or no overhead. There are some benefits. But then you got people coming into your personal space. Literally, people are walking through my kitchen to go to my gym all day long. And so I wanted to get away from that. So for me, it was I want a different space.
Yep.
I didn't want to rent from someone else. Like the writing was on the wall that that wasn't a good scalable business model for my business. So it made sense. Hey, I'll find a place for myself. And then the economics just suggested I can have a bigger, better facility if I start bringing on trainers and they bring their clients as well. So it was a little bit of both. For anyone who's doing that, like you can make decent money at it. Just think about where you want to go. For me, as a business guy, I'm always thinking about the term like infinite scalability. I want something that, can be a six-figure business, a seven-figure business, an eight-figure business, a nine-figure business. Like there really isn't anything holding it back. And the model of starting a gym, even if you bring in personal trainers, the only way you can do that is if you start franchising. And I knew that wasn't a route that I wanted to go. So for me, I needed a different solution.
Hmm. So when you won the Canada's Top Trainer Award, were you training out of your basement at that time, or were you in the gym?
No, oh, that was long after that.
Okay.
So I'd have to think about the timeline. I think at that point I might have even just have sold the gym. It was right around the time when I transitioned from doing anything in person to being
Right.
only online.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so you transitioned to everything online. Gym's gone. Don't have that stress. Don't have that headache anymore. This challenge is really what got things going for you. How was your business structured online so that a you had a life and weren't just constantly, following up with clients? And let's talk us through just kind of that business strategy because online trending right now is kind of the thing to do. And so,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about like your thinking, your strategy in setting up your online world.
Yeah, so I'll tell you guys everything. So here's how the economics of it work. This 4 week 10 and 4 challenge sold for $67. I think it started at 47 and went up to 67. It might have actually gone up even to 97, but under $100, super
Yep.
cheap. And so I would do these cohorts of people coming in, would get somewhere between 40 and 100 people into one of these challenges. There would be a pop-up Facebook group where the challenge would be hosted. And so a couple cool things. Number one is I'd get paid right off the bat. That's key. Number
Hmm.
two, people were paying so that they're actually going to show up. I know it's super popular right now to run free challenges. I'm not against it if you're running a free challenge that's ultra short, but if you're running a free challenge that's anything more than a week, man, no one has any skin in the game. They're not going to pay attention. They're not going to get results. It's ultra hard to sell someone something
Right.
after they've not had results with something that you've given them for free. So I had this 4 week challenge. Let's say it was $97, pop up group. At the end of the challenge, this is where it got difficult for me. I personally followed up with every single person in the challenge. And so that meant either DMing them and or getting on calls with the people who were like actually hot prospects. And so I had a little bit of built-in urgency because people had gone through this challenge. It was ultra successful because it's so short. There's so much social pressure for everyone to take all the steps and do all the things. People are getting results. Everyone's loving the community. And I'm telling them that the pop up Facebook group is about to go away. The key to their success is about to be taken from them. And so these women are really excited or really eager to find out what's next. So I
Hmm.
start chatting with them in Messenger. The hot people, I get on a call with them, and then I sell them into a recurring program that had different tiers depending on how much service I was giving them. I
Right.
think the lowest tier was $100 a month. And for $100, they would get to move over to our permanent Facebook group, not a pop up Facebook group. And they would get access to a monthly workout plan that everyone in the group was following. So for $100, everyone gets that workout. Think about that business model, ultra scalable, right? I'm not doing any one on one
Right.
coaching. The only coaching that those people get is inside the Facebook group. And then there were two tiers beyond that. I don't remember, this was a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly what they got, but it's something around $250 a month. And then for people who I'd actually meet with and do coaching calls, they were paying $400 a month. And so that's like the simple entire value ladder I ran, and it grew really quickly. Like that was a very profitable online business and pretty easy to manage.
So, as far as your delivery, everything was in the Facebook group. All the nutrition content, all the workouts, everything was just delivered via the Facebook group.
Mm, in the 10 and 4 challenge, yeah. And then
Hmm.
people who would pay a subscription, they got access to an app like Coach Catalyst, where then they got
A little more
it felt a little bit
personalization.
more
Yep.
professional. Yeah, a little more personal. But just remember, again, for anyone who's listening to this and wheels are spinning about how you can do this, you just can't invest in personalization for people who are paying you peanuts. If
Right.
someone's paying me $100, I can't grow a business and give them any sort of customization. So they all get the exact same templated workout. And if they have questions about how to modify, they ask in the group. And the cool thing is, once you've sort of fostered this community in the group, you really quickly have your superstars, your
Right.
ultra keeners who just watch all your answers. And after they've seen you answer the same question 10 times, they answer it for you. And so over time, that group, as it grew, actually became less and less work for me, which was amazing.
Right. So, I mean, the I think logistics are probably easy for a lot of people. Lead gen is where they really start to struggle. And so, what was at this time? What did lead gen look like for you?
As a gym owner, Coach Catalyst is the key to having low turnover. For several years, I struggled and spent 10 to 20 hours a week communicating with clients via phone calls, Facebook Messenger, email, and text messages. I had tried everything to make my life more efficient. I was at my wit's end. And then I found Coach Catalyst. Since starting the software, I have found a life again, and my clients are thanking me for being so involved in their fitness life. I've cut my daily commitment to interacting with over 300 clients to under 15 minutes a day and have streamlined my 6-week challenges. I couldn't recommend it more. I just don't know if I would even be here today if it wasn't for Coach Catalyst. If you don't have an account already, you're missing out and not helping the people you could be.
You're smart, man. I love that you said that, because everything that I just described, that's the easy part. The hard part, remember I started off by saying I get somewhere like between 40 and 100 people into these cohorts of the 10 and 4 challenge. That's the challenging thing, is filling up
Right.
your funnel, filling
Right.
up that first step on the value ladder. So yeah, I'm a numbers guy. So let me work some numbers with you. I quickly realized that Facebook was the platform that I wanted to be on. Facebook groups are essential. If you're running, this was 10 years ago, but if you're running an online business right now, have a Facebook group. There is no better way to foster community. And like I said, to alleviate work from your shoulders than by having a community do it for you. So Facebook group is key. I quickly realized that Facebook was going to be my platform. And in order for me to sell people, I needed to look at my personal audience. So you guys probably know this. You get 5,000 friends on Facebook. And just working my metrics, I'm huge into the numbers, looking at my metrics. I quickly realized I could sell at minimum somewhere between 3 to 5% of my audience I could get into my 10 and 4 challenge. So let's do some math. So if I have 1,000 friends, that's going to be 50 people going over to my 10 and 4 challenge. I cap out at 5,000 friends, that's 250 people going into my 10 and 4 challenge. And so at first, my goal was I'm just going to get more and more friends. Then I realized I got capped at 5,000. Now my question is, okay, who in these 5,000 friends shouldn't be here? They're not buying. I got to
Mhm.
start deleting people and then filling up those spots with new friends. And that really was my marketing, is just cycling through new friends, adding friends, engaging them in my content, and then making them an offer to join 10 and 4 challenge. So it was free. I wasn't running any Facebook ads. It was literally just me and the Facebook algorithm building the business.
And I mean, we'll definitely get into that because this is really your zone now. Like you've optimized Facebook to its fullest at this point, and we'll definitely get into that. But at this time, I mean, was this a lot of like manual work? Were you just kind of going in and friending people and trying to find people that would resonate with you?
100%. So nowadays it's super popular. Like people will go into related groups. So if you're a
Hmm.
fitness coach, you might go into a weight loss group or a nutrition group and post in there and connect with people. Like that's kind of a typical way people will market. However, that is becoming a little bit outdated already. We're seeing that that's a little bit of a saturated strategy. Back when I was doing it, because Facebook groups were so new, there
Hmm.
weren't groups of 100,000 people to go in and network from. So literally, hopefully this doesn't sound scammy or spammy, but literally what I would do is I would go to my clients. So everyone who had bought the 10 and 4 challenge, I would go over to their friend lists. And back then, I don't think you could hide your friend list. Now you can hide it from public. But back then, I'd go over to your profile, Trevor, and I would see all of your friends. And manually, I would do this. I would scroll through, and I was targeting middle-aged women. So I was just
Hmm.
looking for middle-aged women. Every middle-aged woman, friend request, friend request, friend request. Those women would get a friend request from this Dave Smith guy. they would see that we had a mutual friend in common, and a really high percentage of them would accept my friend request.
Right.
And then they'd start seeing my content. I'd start commenting on their stuff, and then I'd promote the next 10 and 4 challenge. And lo and behold, the very high likelihood that they would join.
So are you using your Facebook profile really as a content platform rather than, I mean, some people use Facebook as like, it's my personal, I put lots of pictures of my kids and my family and use it as a way to connect that way. Were you doing both, or were you using it mainly for the kind of business connections?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. Definitely both. Definitely
Okay.
both. Here's a struggle, and again, maybe this will help for someone listening in your audience right now who's maybe figuring out what their niche is. I picked probably like the hardest niche possible. I picked menopausal women is really like what I promoted, which makes no sense in retrospect. I should not have done that, right? Like I was a 29, 30-year-old guy. I've got no experience with anything like that. But I made the mistake of looking at who I was training in person and thinking that should be my online niche, even though the
Right.
two really don't go hand in hand like that. So I had this hurdle to overcome that these women, when I'm sending them friend requests, I need to show them something that they don't think, A, I'm a creep trying to can date them or something. And then B, I'm also someone who's has some expertise that relates to them.
Yep.
And so, yes, I was promoting fitness content, but I also promoted a lot of content that just made me a likable guy. And for me, I always tell people think about three things that your life really stands for and then promote that, show that. And so for me, it was family, it was fitness, and it was my faith. And so I'd just post a lot of stuff about that. And if I connected with a 45-year-old Christian woman who's married with kids, man, she'd look at my content and I can almost guarantee she would at least like me. Doesn't mean she's going to
Hmm.
buy from me. No, but she'd look at my content and say, oh, I like this guy. And that's all I was aiming for.
And so when did you have a strategy around content? Like, were you posting daily? Did you have kind of a marketing calendar to help execute on? Because I think a lot of Facebook, at least personally for me, it's just like, oh, here's a random picture, or here's this or that. There's not a lot of like quote unquote strategy behind it. It's just kind of almost like a picture book of your life.
Yeah. If you'd asked me back then, I probably would have said, yes, I have a strategy. But in retrospect, I had no strategy at all. I used all the apps. Buffer was really good. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
Buffer. I don't know if it's
yeah,
still around. Hootsuite.
yeah.
And there's another one. I can't remember the name of it. Let me think. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but basically you would queue up a bunch of content and it would automatically cycle through your content and post it for you. So if you had, say, 100 posts in your queue, it could keep on reusing those. So the same post might get posted 100 days from now, but no one would remember.
Right,
Anyways, I tried all these different things. I came to the realization that automated content sucks. Like no one engages with it, which is the whole purpose. If you're trying to sell on Facebook, you want engagement,
right.
not content. You want the engagements from the content. So I ditched that strategy after trying out all those tools and was manually posting every single day. So in terms of content, a lot of personal content, and then I also had a blog that got a lot of traffic. So my website back then, makeyourbodywork.com, it it had a blog, and I think I was getting maybe like 100,000 unique visitors a month. So pretty good traffic going to my blog. And then what I would do is take those blog articles, post those on my Facebook feed as well. I wouldn't recommend that nowadays. If you post links that are taking people off Facebook, your reach is almost zero. But back then it worked pretty well. So I
Hmm.
had a mix of blog content and then I'd post little videos of me just talking about random fitness stuff. I did one more. So this is really going to date, like, show you how far back in time this was. I was part of this service, and I wish I could remember the name. It's closed down now because Google like absolutely destroyed it. But there was this service, and what it would do, it would take different blog owners, and you could post your blog in this service and say, "Hey, I've got a fitness blog. Make your body work." It would show some of the stats of how many people were coming and like what the demographic was of my blog. And then other people, other blog owners could look at that and say, oh, I've got some product or service or a blog that should connect with your demographic that's going to your blog. So it's basically like a matchmaking service for blog owners. Then what we would do is we basically trade links to each other's blogs, which is such a no-no on Google nowadays. But back then, this was like the kind of like black hat marketing that was working. So I was on there and connecting with all these other blog owners. So basically what happened is makeyourbodywork.com was being linked to from all these other health and fitness blogs. And then my blog was linking to all their blogs. And so we have this web of all these links that's just sharing traffic around and also sharing like Google, sort of like Google ranking
Yep.
power. And so back then, Make Your Body Work, if you typed in basically any search about menopausal weight loss, it would come up. And then people would get on my email list, and then I'd send them over to my Facebook group, and just this whole ecosystem just would start running on its own.
So, was this a one man show at the time, or did you have other coaches that were helping you?
Yeah, good question. So, do you remember the book, Tim Ferriss's
Oh
book,
yeah.
4 Hour Work Week?
Oh
You
yeah.
read that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I read that when it first came out and was smitten. I was so in love with that idea. And so I did exactly like I followed it like it was the Bible, man. I went out and hired VAs and had them doing all my things. And uh, Tim, he had this strategy in that book, which hopefully people don't do this anymore. But he said you want to make your company seem way bigger than it is, and
Yep.
so his suggestion was to create all these email addresses. Do you remember
Yep.
this? And it was
Yep.
like
Yeah.
sales at
Right.
makeyourbodywork.com, service at makeyourbody.
Yep.
So I had all these different email addresses and all these VAs that were manning all these email addresses, and thought that was really important. But yeah, it was basically me trying to pose like a big company, me and a team of probably 5 VAs from in the Philippines. That
Hmm.
was it.
And how long were you operating like this? Was it a couple years? Was it, you know?
Yeah. So 2013 won that award, ton of media attention, traffic to my website and connections in my Facebook just through the roof. I worked solo with a team of VAs probably for from 2013 to maybe 2016, 2017. And then what happened was at this point, I started to get some attention for not so much for the fitness side of things, but for the business of online fitness. And that's where I started to get invited to like speak at conferences talking about the mechanics of this. Like, how does the business work? How do
Hmm.
other fitness coaches do this? If a nutrition coach wants to launch online, what should he or she think about? And so at that point, when I started speaking from a business to business perspective, I started taking my foot off the pedal for Make Your Body Work. And at that point, it was pretty self sufficient. I had the VAs that were basically doing everything through my Facebook, my personal profile. So they would log in for me, they'd do everything in my Facebook groups. I didn't really do anything at all with it, which was the 4 hour work week. I achieved it. Tim Ferriss, if you listen to this, thank you. It works. Um, but yeah, at that point, I started focusing more on how do I help other people do what I've done
Right.
and not so much the fitness coaching. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that led into really a new business. And a lot of people may know you from when you were kind of running things at OTF. So,
Hmm.
was it kind of, it was just kind of an organic transition, right? You're starting to teach this on stage, and then people are probably like, hey, how do I do this? I want to be taught this. And then you just kind of like, all right, we'll figure out how to, deliver this to the people that want it.
Yeah, you're going to notice a theme with my business career is everything is just kind of like hacked together until it works, right? So, how the Online Trainers Federation, which was my next online business, how that got started was it was actually, you'll be interested in this, it was a coaching app that I don't even think exists anymore. But basically, it was one of the first online coaching apps. They said, hey, we got this database of interested users and we've got subscribers who are using our platform, but none of them are making money. And
Hmm.
therefore, they're unsubscribing. We want to fix this. Can you come in and basically give them a pep talk and give them a business strategy so that they can make some more money? And I thought, okay, great. Like, I love talking about this stuff. I thought maybe this will lead to, I don't know, some sort of business down the road, some sort of partnership. So I did this webinar, maybe like an hour, 2 hour webinar where I went through my entire business model, showed them all the moving parts, showed them the metrics. And it was crazy. I think there was about 500 people on this webinar. And at the end of the webinar, I was just looking at the chat, and Trevor, like the chat was blowing up. So again, this is 6, 7 years ago, pretty early on in the online fitness space. All these people were just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, I need help doing this. Can you help me do this? How do I do this for my business? And so as I was like closing the webinar up, I realized, okay, there's a business opportunity here. And so, literally, as I'm closing, I go over to PayPal and I created this PayPal button that took $500 payment for a coaching program. and didn't have this coaching program built, didn't know what was going to go in the
Right.
coaching program. But in the chat, I just dropped the PayPal link and was like, hey, yeah, and there's a coaching program. If you guys want help with this, here's the PayPal link. And it was so cool. Like literally, I just started getting all these notifications in my email inbox. It was like $500, $500, $500, $500. And I just felt like, okay, this is a sign that now my career is going to focus on the business side of things because this is my expertise. I said, I'm not that good of a personal trainer. Like, I'm okay. There's a lot of better fitness coaches out there. But building an online business, this is something I'm a real expert in. This is where I need to go.
So you built the button live during the webinar?
Yeah, well, and it was so easy for me because that's okay. How rudimentary the 10 and 4 challenge was back then. There was no landing page. Literally, it was a PayPal button,
Right.
and I created all kinds of PayPal buttons for that. So took me 2 seconds to do it. Just dropped it in there and off to the races. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I made like some good money on that webinar. Might have made 10K on that webinar. Going in thinking it was just going to be a free talk. So it was awesome.
So were you then like, I mean, your feet were to the fire that I need to then create something of value for these people. Were you nervous at all, or were you like, this is kind of my wheelhouse, let's go?
Yeah, man. I got off the call and was like literally sweaty. I just remember being so sweaty because I was like, what the heck just happened?
Right.
But here's the cool thing is once you've done something once, doesn't matter what niche it is or doesn't matter who you're serving. Once you've done something successfully once, there's elements of that success that carry over to whatever you're going to do in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
so it didn't take me long to kind of like formulate what is this coaching program going to look like? It's going to look like my 10 and 4 challenge. And so that's what I did is I opened up a pop-up group, had a curriculum that everyone was following through, had an urgency at the end where people after this program was done, they wanted something more, got into conversation through Messenger, booked calls with those people who are ultra interested, and then sold them into my next offer. And so it was the exact same game plan. I was so thankful for having done that 10 and 4 challenge. It became my blueprint.
Right. Would you say that's maybe one of your kind of superpowers is taking that something that's successful in maybe a previous engagement and being able to apply it into a future endeavor or a present endeavor?
Uh, Superpower or limiting ability. I don't know. Maybe I've just got one thing that I can do and that's it. I don't know. But yeah, it is like that is what I do. So the 10 and 4 challenge morphed into that first offer, which morphed into the Online Trainers Federation, which became many different offers through the Online Trainers Federation. My wife and I, we sold that business, did a multi 7-figure exit last
Mm-hmm.
year, and have since started a new business. And it's the same business model. We offer a service. We have a Facebook group where people get support. People who want more support, they can get a subsequent offer, and that's the same business model. So, superpower or yeah, limited ability. I don't know.
I like it. All right, so you achieved kind of the entrepreneurial dream to an extent, right? Of having a successful business, a successful exit, getting paid for something that you've built, and that's, I mean, for a lot of people, I think that's a really good feeling. How did you feel? I mean, were you? Let's just talk about that sale for a second because I think this is just interesting. Were you like to a point where a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like, you have so many good years building something, and then it's like you kind of get that itch where I want to do that next thing. Were you at that stage, or did you just kind of get an offer that it's like this is just kind of too good to be true
Mm.
almost, and like I'm ready for that next thing? What was your thought process
Yeah,
like there?
good question again. A little bit situational actually. So bit of a backstory. So my wife Lucy and I, we got married 3 years ago. I'm 42 and she's just about to turn 41. And when we got married, so we were a bit older when we got married. When we got married, we both said with 100% certainty, we do not want to have children. And so going into marriage, we thought we're a perfect match. This is going to be great. And then maybe about 2 years into our marriage, we were at this program, this event where it was talking about foster parenting, and it was showing just like some of the stats on the foster system and how there's so much of a need for foster parents. And so we kind of felt this like little tug on our heart to maybe explore that. And so we started going through the process of becoming foster parents, which is really cool. Like during that process, we still weren't planning on having kids, but the idea of having a child in our house and like raising a child, even though it wasn't ours, we started becoming like a little bit more open to that. And lo and behold, during that process, Lucy got pregnant. And it was, in retrospect, it was so cool because if we hadn't started going down those steps of the foster parenting, I think if Luce had come to me and said, I'm pregnant, I would have had a heart attack. But when she told me, we were still really scared, but we were
Right.
much more excited and like warm to the idea. So all of a sudden, we have 9 months. We know this baby is coming. Our business, the Online Trainers Federation, this was before we had sold it. It was flying. Like we're in the middle of COVID. All these fitness coaches are looking for help building their online businesses. That's our expertise. So we're just working like 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks. We work together. Like literally all we did was work. And then all of a sudden we get this news that this baby's coming into our life. And it just felt really, really overwhelming. And so we actually went to see a marriage counselor, not because we were having issues with our marriage, but because we foresaw that if we tried to bring a baby into our marriage and run a business and have a happy marriage, like something was going to give. And so our marriage counselor had some really interesting like words of wisdom. As we left that appointment, she said, do you think it's possible that God gave you this baby as a way to make you take a move in another area of your life that otherwise you would have resisted? And that really just like stuck with us. And we were wondering about that. Like maybe, yeah, maybe we should change. Like maybe there's something else that needs to change. Just started thinking about what life might look like if we weren't doing this business anymore. And so we knew we needed to change. Lo and behold, within several weeks, like Trevor, the circumstances, I don't know what you believe in, if it's like coincidence or you believe in God or whatever it is, but we really believe like God lined all these events up. We came out having this new feeling that we needed to change. Within like 3 or 4 weeks, a mutual friend had connected me with someone who wanted to buy the Online Trainers Federation. And within 4 weeks after that first meeting, we had sold it. So it was like an incredible chain of events. Then Yuna, our baby, was born on September 21st. And that was literally the last day that I was working for the OTF, helping transition over to the new ownership. And so it kind of like opened up this whole new life of us being parents. Financially, we were in a pretty good position and we were no longer responsible for this big growing business. So yeah, it was wild. It was wild.
That's a quick sale, right? I mean, you're like 4 weeks and decision is made and you're kind of helping transition. If you were to go back and do it differently, was that too short or too long or?
Yeah, good question. If we didn't have the baby coming when the baby was coming, I would have liked to have stayed longer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was awesome. Like it was just so awesome being in the hospital and having this baby come in and coming home and knowing that I didn't have to do anything. There was zero. My inbox was on zero, not exactly zero, but there's
Right.
no emails, there's no
Right.
stress. So I wouldn't trade that for the world.
So I kind of want to touch on this kind of family piece because you and your wife work closely together in the business, both then and now. That
Mhm.
situation is not right for everyone. And so, is there anything that you guys do that helps to make that possible? And then you can have this married life, but you can also have this business relationship life, and that gets messy. So, my wife and I both work in in the gyms, and so I know exactly what it's like. So, I'm
Yeah.
curious on if there's any strategies that you guys put into place to help make that successful.
I don't feel qualified to be giving marriage advice to anyone, but like I'll tell you one thing that's been like really helpful for us is we need other things aside from work that we can talk about.
Yep.
And so like experiences, the same with any relationship. If you think back to friends that you're really close with, why are you close with those people? It's probably because you've known each other for a long time and had a whole bunch of experiences together. And so Lucy and I, that's what we want to cultivate. And we don't want our only experience to be work. So we have a lot of other things we're involved in, a lot of volunteer work, a lot of social. We're big like social organizers. We, have a lot of friends that we invite over. We're always hosting people at our place. And so we just make sure that we fill up our schedule with these other things so that that's what we can talk about. It doesn't have to always be work.
Mm-hmm. When you guys are working, are you in the same room? Do you have separate spaces? Do you go to like a co-working space? How do you guys organize that?
Yeah, good question. So It's funny when Lucy and I got married, she actually owned her own business as well. She was a consultant,
Okay.
and I owned the Online Trainers Federation. So when we got married, we moved into Lucy already owned a place. We moved in, and there was a decent sized office there. And so I actually built this big long desk, kind of like something you'd see in WeWork or something like that.
Yep.
And then these computer monitors on it, and we had our exercise balls. And the idea was to like sit there or stand there beside each other and be that power couple. And then we realized being in the same room, like, you can't do calls like this because the other person is so
Yep.
annoyed because you're talking, and it's just too distracting. So that lasted about a week, and all my work building this desk went to waste. We ended up just garbaging it. But yeah, so we ended up, I'm in an office right now. We have an office in my place. And then we also have an office in our building where Luce will go work. Or sometimes
Okay.
we have an amazing library really close to us. I'll go and work at the library. And yeah, we definitely don't work shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. Yeah, and it seems to work out okay. We absolutely love working together. And I think it's been a real blessing to our marriage, actually.
hmm That's awesome. All right, so let's kind of move into the next kind of phase, right? So you sold this business, you have a new baby in the house. At this point, were you thinking like, what's that next business that I want to start, or was it just like, hey, I'm just going to go day by day and feel things out, and then you started to get the itch to like, I need to do something?
Yeah, it's so funny thinking back to it. So our thought process was this: we thought that we were going to have this baby and then take at least a year without doing anything, like not
Mm-hmm.
anything work related. And then we were pretty open handed after that. Like maybe there'd be another business idea. We also were thinking about maybe going overseas and doing some like humanitarian or missionary type work somewhere.
Yep.
We had lots of ideas. The reality was, baby came, and yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in the initial stages. You're not getting that much sleep. But to fill our time when the baby's like napping and just breastfeeding and stuff, we read a ton. So I would literally go to the library at the start of the week and get like 5 or 6 books on business ideas and just like cool inspirational books. And we'd sit on the couch or sit outside, and I would read them out loud to Lucy. This is like our romantic times, me reading while she breastfeeds. So we were reading like just voraciously through all these books. Literally, would read multiple books per week, and it was so cool. We got an amazing partnership. I'd be reading out loud. Lucy would be breastfeeding while she would be taking notes of the ideas that we had from these books. And so we did this for 3 weeks. And at the end of the 3 weeks, we had so many business ideas. We just looked at each other and were like, okay, we got to do something. And there was one in particular, which is now the business that we run. That one, our business Unipro, it was something that we've been thinking about for years. And just through this reading process and this brainstorming process, it was just validated over and over and over again. And
Mm-hmm.
so 3 weeks after the birth of our baby, we were right back to planning.
As a gym owner, Coach Catalyst is the key to having low turnover. For several years, I struggled and spent 10 to 20 hours a week communicating with clients via phone calls, Facebook Messenger, email, and text messages. I had tried everything to make my life more efficient. I was at my wit's end. And then I found Coach Catalyst. Since starting the software, I have found a life again, and my clients are thanking me for being so involved in their fitness life. I've cut my daily commitment to interacting with over 300 clients to under 15 minutes a day and have streamlined my 6-week challenges. I couldn't recommend it more. I just don't know if I would even be here today if it wasn't for Coach Catalyst. If you don't have an account already, you're missing out and not helping the people you could be.
So was it like clear that this is what you should do, or did you have a criteria on starting to filter through all those business ideas to see like what maybe checks the boxes on how we want our life to be, and then what makes sense, or did you find a different way to kind of filter it?
Yeah, we did exactly that. So I'm a huge spreadsheet nerd. So I had a spreadsheet with all these variables and then how all the ideas going across the top and checking all the boxes. And I don't remember everything that's in those boxes, but going back to something I said earlier, a big one was infinite scalability. Another one was something that we could grow. Like when I say grow, like eight, maybe even 9 figures
Mm-hmm.
without a huge team. That was really important. Just looking back at like the history, and this is speaking personally just for me, not saying any of your listeners need to feel this way. I like being a personal trainer. I didn't like being a gym owner and a manager. I liked coaching business coach or fitness coaches to build their businesses. I didn't like managing a big team that was running the Online Trainers Federation. And so when we moved into this new business, that was a criteria. Can we run this on a small team? So we were looking for something that could grow, like I said, probably 8, 9 figures, small team, something that we really enjoyed doing. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking back to everyone's got a skill set, but also everyone has something that they really like. You might
Mm-hmm.
be really great at something, but it doesn't mean you need to turn that into your career, or even it's something that you would like as a career. For Lucy and I, we love, like absolutely love building community, and we love building Facebook community. I know it sounds nerdy to say that, but we just love it. Like I get such a kick out of in the morning logging into Facebook and taking a look at all my notifications and just seeing all these conversations that we had a hand in generating. And so
Mm-hmm.
we knew that our new business would somehow be oriented around Facebook, specifically building a community on Facebook. That was doubled down by Mark Zuckerberg. He did this pretty famous speech. It was back a couple of years now, but he was talking about the future of the Facebook platform. And he like nailed it. He said, we look at our analytics and it's so clear people are using Facebook to connect in communities. So no longer is it all about the news feed. It used to be 5 years ago.
Right.
Facebook's a community platform. It's all about Facebook groups, which is why we so heavily promote people who want to build your business on Facebook. You got to have a group. So we knew that that was the direction. Something about Facebook, something specifically about Facebook groups.
So now, I mean, what's funny, right, is like you know it now, but at the time, 10 years ago, you were kind of doing the first things to start honing this skill, right? And little did you know that 10 years later, now you're kind of exclusively focusing on that, which is kind of cool, right?
Isn't
Um,
it funny? Like you look back at your life, or any listeners, you think
eh,
back to your life, and there's probably all these ups and downs, similar as there has been for me. And in the time, it felt frustrating or
yeah,
maybe scary or whatever. But you look back and you just think, wow, those were so preparation stages that I needed for where I am today. So yeah, I love looking back in hindsight and thinking, my career path, I went to business school, and
mm-hmm,
then I became a teacher. I was a business teacher. And then I became a fitness pro and then a gym owner. Well, lo and behold, what am I doing now? I'm teaching business. A lot of my clients are fit pros in the role of an educator. Like all of that experience just rolled into this perfect sort of like trifecta of where we are now. And I think that's true for everyone.
right. That's awesome. I think for you too, it's just like you kind of saw that next opportunity. You weren't necessarily so focused on what you were currently doing to not be aware of the where this is evolving into. And
Mhm.
I think it's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about Unipro and like just how it helps someone build a business, and like maybe the ins and outs of it, and really it's some automations behind it. I mean, it's really the automation behind the strategy, but even just talking about the strategy.
Yeah, like going back to the whole history. So everything that I described about, how I built my audience and back in the day when I was doing the 10 and 4 challenge, how I built that audience, there are some things like mechanically that have changed on Facebook, but the principles are the same.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to build an online business, you need to have a big audience. You need to remove people who aren't interested in what you have to offer. You need to add more people who may be interested. You need to get them into conversation. You need to get them engaging on your content. And eventually, you need to make them an offer. And we really think that the best way to do this is funneling all those people through a Facebook group, but that is still optional at this point. And so we looked at this and said, okay, this is the template to grow an online business through Facebook. How can we make this easier? Because that's what I did in Make Your Body Work. That's what we did in the Online Trainers Federation. It was so manual intensive. Make Your Body Work, I did all the manual work myself. In Online Trainers Federation, it was right from day one, it was pretty much all virtual assistants. We said, can we take this and make it easier? And we started playing around with things and we built Unipro, which, if you're listening to this, you've never heard of Unipro, it's basically all of our Facebook marketing done on autopilot. All the
Mm-hmm.
things that we were doing manually, now you push a button and we've built a software that is an expert at doing exactly what we need it to do. It just does the work for us.
And that's kind of fascinating too, with a software on top of the platform of Facebook, because it's almost like a software on top of a kind of a software, right?
Mhm.
And so, was it challenging for you to go out because you're not technical, right? Like you don't have, you're not
Mhm.
writing the code, right?
Yeah, correct.
Was it
No.
challenging you to find someone that kind of specialized in this, or was it just finding a good developer that?
Yeah, again, like my experience with building these other businesses was so helpful. So the first place I turned was to Upwork because I've
Mhm.
hired so many freelancers through Upwork already. So did the whole application process, did a series of interviews. I'm way better at it now than when I first started. I used to hire VAs through Upwork and
Mhm.
had no idea how to do it. And I get awful quality people and didn't know what was good, what was bad. I've got a process that works. Did a bunch of interviews, connected with the right people, and they're awesome. Like it was very clear that they know the tech side. It's cool, kind of like a symbiotic relationship. I don't know if you've ever seen. Did you ever see? Oh, sorry, Trevor. I don't know if we can pause this. But, never mind. Sorry, I thought there was going to be a fire alarm in here.
No worries.
We can just keep on rolling. I'll go back to what I was saying. I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Social Network. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like the Facebook story, right? So
Yep.
there's a really cool scene in that movie where Zuckerberg, and I can't remember what his business partner's name is, but they're standing outside this student pub, like a student bar.
Mhm.
And this is like in the early days when they're just starting to build things. And they make the decision Zuckerberg, he's going to go back to the dorm to code, and his business partner is going to go back into the bar to like network and strike up deals. And it's so funny, man. They both turn around and walk away from each other. And as they walk away, they kind of look over their shoulder, and both of them simultaneously they say, sucker. As in the other guy, oh, that's a crappy job. You got the short end of the stick. I got the good deal. And that's really how I feel working with these developers. They love it. Like they
Mhm.
love, I give them the ideas, I show them how it should work, and they go and figure out how do we make this work on Facebook? How do we do it safely? How do we do it efficiently? How do we make sure no one's account gets shut down? How do we make sure it gets the results for their business they want? And it's perfect. They are so happy, and I'm so happy I don't have to do the coding. Yeah, it's awesome.
So, I mean, would you say a large percentage of people that use Unipro are fitness, health, that world?
Yeah. Just because Lucy and I have such a following in the fitness space, it's definitely branched out a lot from there. I'd say about 50% of our users are in the health and fitness space. But yeah, it's growing definitely in other industries. It
Right.
it it works for anyone who's doing any sort of like coaching, really, because
Yep.
we're coaches, right? So we built the platform to be awesome for coaches.
Mhm. So, I mean, you've been in this industry. I mean, you've went from gym to online to coaching coaches. Like, where do you see the industry going? Like the next 5 years? Like, if someone was going to try and position them for a lot of success in the next 5 years, what kind of conversation would you have with that person?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a bit of a roll up in the industry. If you're familiar with that term, anyone who's listening, like roll up, someone that's basically creating a conglomerate of services. So right now, because the industry is relatively new, online fitness services, very disjointed. You have all these individual like solopreneurs who are offering up a
Hmm.
service. To be honest, if I can just be completely frank, most of them aren't making any money. Most of them are kind of doing it as a hobby business right now. And so there have started to be these conglomerates come out where they hire these coaches to run their programs, but the big business itself, the roll up, is doing all the marketing and client acquisition. That's one thing that I see. The other thing that I see, and it's already like very apparent, is the people who do stick it out and say, no, I'm going to build this business for myself, they're going to get more and more niched. So I'll give you an example actually. There's a guy, he's huge on YouTube. His YouTube channel is called, I think it's The Knees Over Toes Guy.
Oh,
You ever heard of
yeah.
this guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I follow him.
Yeah, man. And so he's like a perfect example. So he's a fitness coach, but is he just out there doing fitness coaching? No, he's doing knee health. Is he just doing knee health? No, he's doing knee health by teaching people how to exercise primarily by putting their knees over their toes. Like it's so niche.
Hmm.
I'm a subscriber to his program. I pay him $50 on a monthly basis to have access to his generic program. Why can you do that? Like early in this conversation, Trevor, I said that subscriptions to workout programs are a bad model. He
Hmm.
got so niche that there aren't people that are doing that on YouTube for free. He does
Hmm.
put a lot of stuff on YouTube, but if I want to get his actual program, he's like the one place that I can actually get that. So I think two things really to summarize that is there's going to be big businesses that do all the more generic, like sort of mainstream fitness stuff. And then the people who are going to really crush it on their own, they're going to get ultra niche.
So, I mean, you mentioned business model. What do you think? I mean, do you think this still the same kind of ascension business model where you have basically levels of access to the creator of the program or to the coaches? Do you see that as still a successful business model, or is that evolving as well?
Define success.
That's a right. So, I mean, you could go at from a monetary standpoint or from so you probably first have to define what you want probably your lifestyle to look like, and then from there find the model that fits your lifestyle. Would that be maybe a better way to go about it?
Well, yeah, like it really does depend on the person. I think you and I probably see this a lot. A lot of fitness coaches probably see this. There are a lot of pieces of content out there suggesting that fit pros, when they go online, whether it's a nutrition coach or a fitness coach, they should make $10,000 a month. That seems sort of like the holy grail, right? You're
Right.
doing pretty well if you're making 10K a month. I think that the business model that we talked about, like something relatively low ticket that gets people paying you a little bit for a result and then ascending them into something more personalized and more attention, that model is awesome. Like you can get 10K a month pretty easily doing that. If success to you is seven figures, that model is pretty limiting because you're still giving up some of your time to those higher paying clients. And so it really depends on what you want your success to be. If you want 100K, yep, there's your business model. Have people flowing into your Facebook personal friends list, remove the people who aren't interested, fill up to 5,000 friends, and then keep cycling out the uninterested and bringing in interested people. Sell those people into a low ticket offer, give them a great experience in a very short time frame. I'd say no more than 4 weeks. So they're itching for what's next. Get them
Mm-hmm.
on a call and close them into something that's higher ticket. Easy 6 figure business.
Mm-hmm. So then, let's say someone wants to go to that seven-figure, multi-seven-figure, maybe even an eight-figure business. How would you structure that model in order to give the greatest likelihood of success?
Yeah, good question. I think actually you can start with the same starting point, which is funneling people through your personal Facebook. You'd probably want to add in a group because a group has no limit to the number of members there. So, for example, in the Online Trainers Federation, I maxed out. I started out with just my personal profile, creating a little bit of business content. I already have 5,000 friends. And back then, they're all women who are looking to want to lose weight. So I was kind of stuck. I'm like, what am I going to do with this audience? So then create a Facebook group, fill up that Facebook group, 30,000 members. Now I got a big audience to draw from. So if you want
Mm-hmm.
to go from 6 figures to 7 figures, have a Facebook group. Now your audience is infinitely scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you sell people into that challenge or whatever it is, that low ticket offer, you just have a coach that runs that. They do all the coaching for you. You show up as the figurehead. So when I say figurehead, I'll give you a very specific example. In our last business, the Online Trainers Federation, we had a low ticket offer. It was a 3 week program. Lucy and I would show up on these coaching calls, one call per week. So 3 weeks, one call per week. And we would teach something for everyone to go do. So it took 1 hour of our time. But
Mm-hmm.
then to help people actually do all those steps, we didn't do any of that. So we had a team who would actually do all that helping. And so, a fitness coach, you can set it up the exact same way. What happens is after those 3 weeks, everyone in the program, they feel like they know you because they're on
Mm-hmm.
this coaching call with you for 1 hour. But in our case, we did it in batches, cohorts of 100 people at a time. We're giving our 1 hour of time to 100 people. So we just multiplied our effectiveness by 100.
Right.
And then at the end of 3 weeks, everyone, because there's the rapport built, they want to do something next. They want the next offer. They want to keep working with you. Then it's easy to make them a high ticket offer.
Mm-hmm. So do you see Facebook, let's for Fit Bros, let's kind of stay specific to that industry, nutrition and fitness. Do you still see Facebook as probably your number one lead generation marketing tool?
Yeah, like it kind of depends on who your niche is. So, like I'll be really transparent. There is a demographic that doesn't use Facebook that much. It's
Mhm.
super young people. Like, right, if
Yep.
you're a fitness coach who works with teenage athletes, I don't even know where teenagers hang out anymore, but it's not on Facebook. if you're working with anyone who's 20, 30, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're on Facebook. Like, I know it's kind of like a popular headline to say, oh, the demise of Facebook is coming and
Right.
Facebook, is losing members. Go look at the stats. It's by far and away the biggest platform. And now that Meta owns Instagram as well, like combine those two and it's just astronomical. So yeah, Facebook has the biggest audience. It's got the most daily active users. And the biggest reason why we love Facebook is there's no other social platform that has the tool set that Facebook has. And I keep talking about groups. That's just one example. Their groups are amazing. Like you can run an entire coaching program. You could run a 7-figure business through a free Facebook group. Show me another platform where you can do that. Like there just isn't that tool set.
Mm-hmm. So, you you're a big reader, right? You were reading to your wife while while she was feeding your child. Where would you? I mean, for the coach that's like, all right, I kind of want to explore this online thing. Maybe they're coaching offline right now. What would be some resources that you feel like are good places for them to get started, or at least to start, educating themselves on what it takes?
Yeah, man, there's too much. Like, honestly, there's too much. I would answer that. I know this is probably not the answer you want, but I would actually say don't spend so much time like going out and consuming stuff because you could watch endless hours of YouTube. You could read a million articles. The reality is like get started. So
Mm-hmm.
think about what's like the simplest program that you can launch. When I launched that 10-4 challenge, I had like a framework in my mind. So I knew that these are like kind of some general eating rules that I knew would help people lose weight. These are some like exercise strategies that everyone could do. That's it. Hadn't created anything. And then I just posted on Facebook and started some conversation about it. So for anyone listening, that's what I'd suggest to you. If you're just starting out, think about what's the result that you can definitely deliver. For me, I was pretty confident that I could help women in that middle age range lose about 10 pounds in 4 weeks. Does that mean all the women that went through the challenge lost 10 pounds? Heck no. I'd say
Right.
if I went back and actually looked at the stats, which I have, the stats probably show the average weight loss was like maybe 5 or 6 pounds. And you might think, well, then that's false marketing. You said we were going to lose 10 pounds in 4 weeks. But someone losing 5 pounds or 6 pounds in 4 weeks when they've been battling their weight for years and they did it for 47 or 67 or $97, they are a fan. Like they are so ecstatic. And so I just challenge you to just think about that. What's the result you definitely can deliver? And then
Mm-hmm.
just go deliver it. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally just start.
And just use
So
your
sorry, I know that
personal.
kind of skirted your question a little bit.
That's all right. So just like basically using your personal Facebook profile. I mean, you already probably have an audience of at least a few hundred, probably a few thousand, and start there.
Yep. 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 Exactly. Like literally just start messaging people. Put a post out. If you follow me on Facebook, so you can go over and take a look, just look up Dave Smith Coach. I think I'll probably come up in Facebook search. If you take a look at my profile, the content that I create, I make one post a week. So every Monday I do one post. That's all the content that I'm creating. And quite often there'll be one of those colored background posts where it asks a question or like throws out some sort of idea. If you want to start, create one of those and just ask people who would like to, and then throw in that result that you know you can deliver. And anyone who likes it, anyone who comments, just send them a DM, start up a conversation, and give them a PayPal link and sell them. Like literally, you can start that easily. It's so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we get caught up in the perfect scenario, and which then doesn't allow us to take those first steps forward. And so, I mean, I think what you said is so simple. Like, if you're serious about it, you could literally throw it up right now. If you've already been working with people in person, you know what kind of results you can deliver. You know the knowledge, and now it's just a matter of giving it a try. And like, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Like,
Totally. And I just want to encourage everyone here because I know there's fear in doing that, right? Putting yourself out there. What if no one responds or what if no one buys or,
mm-hmm,
like maybe self-doubt, like no one's really going to want this thing. Here's the truth is let's use your example, Trevor. Let's say you got 1,000 friends on Facebook. Probably a high percentage of those are friends and family who want to support you.
mm-hmm,
And probably a percentage of those people are also either existing clients or past clients. So when you put out that post, who's going to engage in that? Your friends and family are going to want to support you. Some of your friends and family actually want the result, but they're a little bit afraid to say that they want the result. So when they support you, really, it's their way of opening that door saying, I would like to have a conversation about how I can get this result. Then you know who else is going to respond is all your past clients or your current clients, which is amazing, right? You might think, well, but these are all like friends and family. I don't want those as my clients. Yeah, you do. Your first rendition of this program. Yeah, you do. That's exactly what happened. My first 40 people in the 10 and 4 challenge is like my sister was in there, people from church. It's all people I knew.
Right.
But the cool thing was that got me dozens of testimonials. And now you start posting those and you know the whole bit. And this becomes a springboard so that people who don't know you so well, now they see, whoa, there's something to this. Next round, I'm in. It's
Mm-hmm.
as easy as that.
Right. Social proof is so important in taking that person that's brand
So
new to
important.
you and showing them that, hey, I've gotten this result for other people. And so I can do the same for you. That's awesome.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. So I got some kind of rapid fire, non fitness and health related questions that are just kind of fun. So if you're up for it, taco, burrito, or quesadilla?
Whoa, burrito all day.
Burrito. All right. I like it. If you were to eat at one restaurant for the rest of your life, what do you choose? Only one.
What food or what specific
Now,
restaurant?
it could be a specific, let's go a specific restaurant, but it'll probably have a genre of food as well.
Okay, so this isn't a big one that people will know, but it's called Fire Crust and it's a build your own pizza. Lucy and I, we go there almost every week. It's amazing.
Is it one of those like 1,000-degree? Well, that's in Fahrenheit. I don't know what it is in Celsius, but one of those really, really hot ovens where it like cooks it in 30 seconds or 90 seconds or something like that.
Exactly. And it's the thing we like about this, there's lots of build your own pizza places. This one is unlimited toppings. So
Oh,
mine literally comes out looking like there's a crust and this mound of meat and vegetables. It's so good.
that's awesome. They're probably going to rethink that strategy if you keep going there.
Yeah. Well, now Lucy balances it out. She'll go in and get like 3 toppings. So combined, they're still getting good value.
Nice. All right. Anything you've purchased for under $100 that's had disproportionate value?
Uh, yeah, totally. I bought one of these travel foam rollers. You ever seen those? Like the
Hmm.
little tiny ones like this? Actually, here, I got it right here. This guy right here. And the cool thing about this is it's got multiple layers of foam so you can make it as firm or as soft as you like. And so I've got it on the most firm setting. I
Do
take
they
this, like literally goes with me everywhere. And
do you
what's
wrap them
that?
around? Do you wrap them around? Like, do you like take off one
It's
piece of
like
foam?
yeah, it's like a sleeve that just like
Okay.
slides over top so you can have multiple sleeves on it. Pretty cool. So I take it everywhere, but the bonus is this is Yuna's favorite toy. So it became baby toy plus foam roller. Best investment. I think it's $40.
That's awesome. Best of both worlds. All right. What cartoon world do you wish you could live in for a week?
Uh, Probably He-Man. It just probably would work out together. Lucy and I were just watching. I don't know if you ever seen that YouTube video where He-Man's they take the song for LMFAO, I work out,
Yeah.
and put a bunch of He-Man clips to it. If you haven't watched that, look it up. LMFAO, He-Man. It's hilarious. He-Man's jacked. Have a good time.
They when I lived in Germany and one of my good friends there was a He-Man fiend. You'd go, he had one room in his house where it was every collectible still in the box, like hung on the wall, and it was just like the world of He-Man and he kind of was like a little He-Man. He was a little bit shorter, pretty jacked. But yeah, that's my experience with He-Man. All right.
Nice.
Last one here. If you could have dinner with anyone on the planet, past, present, or there's not really a future, but past or present, who do you go to dinner with, or who do you have a conversation with?
Yeah, present, who I'd be really interested in is Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
just because we're similar path, right? Like he did a SaaS product, that's what we're doing. So I'd love to sit down and chat with him. That's present. Past, man, it's going to sound like probably corny, but probably Jesus. I think he's like a
Okay.
smart dude and a lot of good teaching. So yeah, that's who I'd pick.
I think that's a good one, right? I think that's a really good one. There's probably very few people that have influenced, the world more than him. And so I think that's a really good I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, if people want to learn a little bit more about you or follow you on Facebook, see what you're doing there, I mean, where do they go?
Yeah, like definitely we can connect on Facebook. If you want to join, so Lucy and I, we now run a group that's all about Facebook marketing, and there's a ton of fitness coaches in there. A lot of our content is geared towards working well for fitness coaches. So you can check that out. Just search audience and influence, and you'll find our Facebook group. Other than that, if you want to try out our software, Unipro, that does all your Facebook marketing for you, go to unipro.com, YUNA unipro.com. I know you're going to love it. It really is a game changer for fitness coaches who are trying to build on Facebook.
And we'll make sure we have all of that in the show notes too, so you don't need to quickly write it down. So you can come back to it and get that stuff. Yeah, it's something we're using at Coach Catalyst as well, and I can't speak highly enough for Dave and Lucy and what they've put out. And so definitely go check it out. Cool, man. Anything else? Anything we missed that you wanna cover?
Like just thinking back to this conversation, my favorite question you ask good questions. This is why I love chatting with you. You always have like great questions. But the one that you asked about, like, where is the industry headed?
Uh-huh.
That really got my wheels turning when you asked that. And so I just encourage everyone who's listening to this to think about, where do you want your career headed? Because we already saw coming through COVID
Right.
how quickly the in-person industry can change. And so if you're going to build an online business, I'm pretty confident in the idea of like getting more narrow, getting more refining your skills, getting more expertise in a niche. So I just challenge you to think about that and then take action. We gave you a game plan. Go ahead and do it. Start making some sales, changing some lives. Yeah, I'm pumped. If you ever have any questions or want to share your successes, I know, Trevor, you guys do awesome stuff, like equipping all these coaches with the tools to make it happen. If you guys have any successes you want to share, hit me up in the DMs on Facebook. Send me a messenger message. Yeah, I'd just love to hear from you.
That's awesome. And, just head over to paypal.com, create that little button and drop the link. You don't even need a button, just drop the link in and you're good to go. You're off to the races. So it's awesome, Dave. Man, I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks as always.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. If you are a coach looking to do more for your clients than just workouts, give Coach Catalyst a test drive. Try it for 14 days. Jump on call with your personal strategy coach, Ashley, and see how easy technology can be, all for free. Tell them Trevor sent you. Until next time, keep changing lives.